Okay, welcome viewer to Turn Dog Talks 2. Today I am joined by a mentor of mine and a fellow local, Christine. So thank you for joining us. Christine's going to talk to me about the mistakes she has made, but how she overcame them, and it's all for the new book that I'm creating. So I'm hoping you're having an awesome day, and I hope we'll make it a little bit better. So, Christine, can you start off by just telling us who you are and what you do?
Okay, my name is Christine Richmond and I run a company called Richmond Freebird, which is now a business management, business services company. I help other businesses become more streamlined, more effective in managing their business so that they can grow. Because when you're small or medium, you have to let go of a lot of day-to-day stuff in order to grow your business, and everybody wants to grow to be successful.
Absolutely, it's something I talk about quite a lot on my blog, that idea of going from the sort of second and third year when things have started, and sometimes you can have accidental success, but then to go to that next step is sometimes the hardest.
Yeah, it is going to that next step, and if they're really enthusiastic about what they do, they've usually got loads of ideas anyway, but you have to let go of day-to-day stuff in order to grow. You can't do both. It's hard, but that's where I come in. I help them with their systems, their admin, sometimes their strategy, and put a foundation in place so that they can move onwards and upwards, because I want them to be really successful.
Absolutely, that's what
and
it's
make
all
loads
about.
of money.
That's what it's all about. Well, Christine's been a great help for me. We've been mentor-mentee now for what, around about a month, 6 weeks?
6 weeks.
Yeah, and so far the experience has been fantastic. So shout out to the Calderdale mentor system. It's been a fantastic one for me so far. So how long have you been doing this?
All in all, 10 years. I didn't start off really doing what I do now. I'd worked with very large corporates for a long time, and like a lot of other people, been made redundant. And after being made redundant 3 times in 7 years, I thought, why am I doing this? So I started my business locally, really, where I used to live in southeast London, and I had one big client and a few small ones, and it kind of grew from there, not by design, I have to say, by accident. And the more that my clients knew of me, it slowly evolved into what I do now, into more business management than just provision of admin services, which is how I started off.
It's all about the progression. Well, we're going to talk today about some of the mistakes Christine has made, but it's going to have a positive spin, so don't worry, it's not a doom and gloom video. So we're enjoying some coffee here and some splendid cafe latte mugs. So some
very nice.
Nice and homely feel. So let's start things off. I want you to think back when you first set up your business, or you first sort of became self-employed and you went away from the corporate side. If there was one thing that you could do differently, if you could go back in time, what would it be?
I would have done it sooner. I would have done it about
Really?
5 years before I did. I'd thought about it for probably about 6 years. But because I had such a good corporate job, it was, I'll do it later. And between me and you, this is when the internet was really starting to take off. I'm talking about the early 90s. So it was very exciting. And what I was doing in the bank, I was involved in computers and the beginning of the internet revolution, if you like.
Okay.
So that was exciting enough, and it was always kind of at the back of my mind, I'll do this one day, I like this, because I always like new toys.
Yeah.
If I could turn the clock back, I would do it a lot sooner, and I would have done it slightly differently. I would have done a lot more research than I actually did.
What kind of research? Research into the process of it all, or the product?
No, the product side of it. Well, for me, what services I was offering, and also, even when I did start up 11 years ago, There were a lot of people out there doing it. I would have done a lot more research into what other companies like mine were offering. I did a lot of research in America because at that point it wasn't that kind of there wasn't that many people in the UK doing what I wanted to do. So I kind of made the mistake of thinking, oh hey, I can do it. I did a lot of research about what people were offering in America, but not what they were offering in the UK, and I should have been more careful.
Okay.
I mean, it didn't impact my business, but it would have been good to have a lot more detail about what other people were doing in this country at that time.
Research, when you're starting a new business of any kind, I always feel research is so key, and you can always do more.
Yeah,
like
you can.
I'm someone who's quite research focused, but if I could just go back 6 months when I first started, I would have done certain things differently. And I think sometimes it's not so much like you're not doing research, it's just you're looking in the wrong places. Sometimes you need to look more at your actual customer rather than the market as a whole.
I think as well, sometimes when you start off, you're focused on what you're doing, not on what your customers want.
Yeah.
And I was like that, and I should have focused more on what my customers wanted, what they were willing to pay for it, and whether my skill set matched what I wanted to do, which it did, but I didn't do, as I say, quite enough research. And it is important to make sure that your business is viable and that you're going to get lots of customers, because if you haven't got lots of customers, then you're not going to make any money.
It's true, and it's interesting that you say you would have started sooner, because I was at a talk yesterday, in fact, and someone asked in the crowd what he would have done differently if he did it again, or what's the biggest thing like someone starting out can do, and he basically said, start. Just get that first step.
Yeah.
You have to have the guts to actually start. Whether it's starting in a part-time basis and you keep your job and you're sort of building it in the background, or you just take the plunge and go for it. It's the biggest thing you've got to do.
Yeah,
is actually make that first
that's actually
step.
a good idea. Is if you are worried or frightened that you won't be able to make enough money to pay your bills, or if it's that important to you, then starting part-time can be a good way of doing it. And I kind of did that, because I started, but I had the advantage of having one client that wanted me a lot of the time. So I had income while I was building up the other side. And I know quite a few people who started like that. They've kept their job, their full-time job, and they've started their business doing it evenings and weekends where possible, and built it up from there. But it is, you've just got to do it. It's as simple as that. You've just got to do it. Get started. Don't sit there thinking about it for 5 years like I did. Just do it.
I think that's pretty good advice. I think we all think a bit too much sometimes.
You can do too much research. You can do too much thinking, and if you've got a good idea, just try and do it, because your motivation and your passion about what you're doing will keep you going.
Okay, Christine. So I now want to focus on the main part of this video, which is the actual mistake and how you overcame it. So please, tell us a story, tell us a fantastic tale about the biggest mistake you've made in business. So let's start with the actual mistake. What happened?
It's probably, it's not the biggest mistake, but it's one that taught me a lot about how to run your business successfully. So I kind of use it as a yardstick for myself and other people. Like a lot of people, when I started, I took work regardless of what it was. Because I'm business services, I could do anything and everything to do with actually running a business, running an office. And because you're keen to make money, it's a mistake that a lot of people make. You just take anything and everything because you just want the money coming in. And at first, as it always does, it seemed like a great idea to do this database work, because it was the kind of thing that you could just sit there and do, and the pounds were rolling in, so I thought. And It was all very professionally done. It was with a legal firm. I was still in London then, and this firm was based in Manchester. And I first got hold of them via the internet to do my terms and conditions, and got on really well with the lady that I dealt with. And she said, "Are you looking for work?" And I said, "Yes, of course." Anyway, long story short, I started doing this database work, and it was to do with patient records. So it was very complicated. It was a huge database that had been specifically built for them. And the first kind of few months went very well, and it was nice regular money. And then we renegotiated the contract because their year and their new work came in, and they had some people in house and they had some people like me doing it remotely. And I thought, oh yeah, be a doddle, just do it like I did before. But I hadn't focused on the fact that they wanted more hours doing, and my business at this time was taking off. I was getting more clients, I was getting better types of business, the sort that I wanted to do, which was more being involved in people's businesses, helping them with their strategy, their management. It wasn't a case of just going in and doing admin and typing and other things. So this project unfortunately got bigger and bigger and began to take up more and more of my time, which obviously stopped me doing the work that I wanted to do, which was working with small and medium businesses, helping them grow. And I'd signed a contract with these people, and I suddenly realised that they were paying their in-house people more than they were paying me. And it got more and more complicated, and it got more and more work. And I thought, how am I going to get out of this? Because it's really stopping me doing what I want to do. And it was, by this time, it was becoming an effort to do the work. And I'd suddenly realised that I didn't really want to do that kind of work because it was boring, it was repetitive, it wasn't stretching me. It was just literally sitting there following a list, doing, which was fine if that's all I wanted to do, but I didn't. And it became very draining, and I tried several times to get out of the contract. And of course, because they were legal people, it was kind of, no, you've signed up to do this, so you will do it, or we will, sue you. Anyway, in the end, to cut a boring long story short, I did actually contact the owner of the business, the woman that I had dealt with, who by this time had been promoted about 3 times. So from being the person that I dealt with initially, she was now a director and part owner of the company. And I just said to her, I said, look, I can't do this anymore. I contacted her direct, which kind of you weren't supposed to do. Supposed to deal with the person who was dealing with the project. And she was very understanding. And she said, well, if you don't want to do it, there's no point in you doing it. She said, I know you do it really well and you do it a lot faster than most of the people we've got working for us, but if it's, driving you mad, then, we won't keep you to the contract. It's open-ended.
Yeah.
Although I'd signed up for a year, she said, no, if you don't want to do it, stop doing it. So it kind of taught me 2 things. One is, don't just do anything for money if you don't really know that you enjoy doing it. And the other thing is that signing a contract doesn't always mean that that contract has to be adhered to if it's causing you problems, because it was actually making me ill.
Right.
Because it was so emotionally draining, the fact that I was having to get up every day and do 5 hours work that I didn't want to do. And it was stopping me doing the other things that I really wanted to do. And the money was great and they paid well, but it just wasn't worth it. The emotional and business toll wasn't worth the money that I was getting.
It's one of the reasons why people become self-employed and set up their own business. You want to do something that you love, and I would imagine in your circumstances, it felt like you were back at work. And
Well,
it's
it was
like, I've
even-
set up this own company and I'm actually just working for someone else here. I'm miserable.
Yeah, part of the problem was that it not only did it make me feel like I was back at work, but it made me feel like I was back at work 20 years before when I was a
Starting at the bottom.
junior in an office
Yeah.
doing what somebody else wanted me to do. And it also taught me a good lesson, which was if you really hate doing something that much, you need to get out of it straight away. I let it carry on too long.
How long did you?
It took me I worked for them for nearly 3 years altogether,
Right.
but it took me 5 months to get out of this
Rut.
Yeah, once I realised how bad it was, I was a coward. Actually, I just kept thinking, "Oh, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it." But it actually lost me a really good contact with a really good business. That I did get back a couple of years later, but I couldn't take on a particular client because I was still tied to this contract.
So the emotional effect of this, it had big repercussions for you. The emotional side, it made you sick.
Oh, yeah.
It was
Horrible.
emotionally draining. That's
Yeah.
something no one wants to go through.
No.
But financially, it was quite positive because
Yeah,
they were paying
because it
money.
was regular work, yes.
In terms of the sort of time, because this was at a time when your business was still young and growing, and
Yeah.
it's like you say, you have the dollar signs in your eyes, you see the big
Yeah.
contract, and you think, even though this isn't exactly what I want to do, this will be good for my business.
Yeah.
But was it good for you? How did it affect your growth? Because you're someone who deals with small,
Yeah.
medium,
No,
big growth.
it was looking back, it was a huge mistake because it lost me at least one really good client because they needed my help then, like there and then. They'd realised that they needed the help, but I couldn't say to them, yes, I can help you, because I was too tied up with and hours wise too. I was working at least 5 to 6 hours a day on this one contract, which kind of wasn't what I should have been doing, which left you little or no time for building my own business. And it had started to grow organically. I was being referred by my clients to other people, which is the best way of gaining business.
Absolutely, yeah.
And as I say, it lost me a lot. But for me, the emotional toll, but it was good because I realised I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this kind of work. I can pay somebody else to do that if they want to do it, but I don't want to do it. And I kind of went away at the end of that, when it was all done and dusted. I actually sat down and did a list of work that I really wanted to do and a list of stuff I didn't want to do. And it surprised me because the list of stuff I didn't want to do was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be.
So it was basically a case, this mistake, this turmoil that was created, it helped you refine your business model. It helped you understand more
Absolutely.
what you was going down.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for people starting out, because sometimes you'll have an idea, but it'll be a grand idea. It might be several products, several services. You feel like you can do all sorts. You're not too sure what you want to get in.
I was doing exactly that.
Yeah.
I was trying to be all things to all people instead of specialising in what I'm good at, which is business management.
Plodder of all, master of none.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And it is, and I think sometimes you need to go through that misjudgment, that mistake, to kind of come out the other end and say, I now know what I want to do. And that's
I think a lot of people do make lots of mistakes, but for me, that was a refining moment in my business. And after that, it was just so different, because I didn't then take on jobs that I knew I would not enjoy doing. And I stuck to what I really wanted to do, which had been my idea right from day one, which was business management, helping businesses grow, not just, doing the work, but actually the strategy, the ideas, the marketing, the management, the whole structure of a business, not just the admin side of things.
How often do you think you've said no because of it? Because one of the things that I've actually put in my business model was, one of my aims is to actually get to a point where I'm saying no to people for the right reasons.
Oh yeah.
That I'm too busy, that it's not right, there's not the connection there. Have you said no to people quite a lot because of this?
I've said no to projects. I haven't always said no full stop to the client. What I've said is I can work with you to sort that project out, but I won't be the one doing the work.
Okay.
I will oversee it.
Puts a bit more power into your hands. You're a bit more confident about.
I know from that day on, I can truthfully say I no longer did work that I didn't want to do. If they wanted me to do it, then the answer was definitely no. If they didn't mind me overseeing a project, no. If it was me, it was a big no.
So what was the key to overcoming it? Was it as simple as just plucking up the courage to actually, I suppose, go against the rules and speak to your original contact, or was there more?
Yeah, I tried several times to halt things with the person that I was dealing with on a week by week basis, but I didn't have a relationship with that person. My initial relationship was with the person who was now the director, and I should have thought of it before. I shouldn't have let it go on so long. But in the end, I just thought, no, I've got Susan's private email. I will contact her direct. So I contacted her, said, can I ring you? I've got a problem. She said, yes, I'm in the office, da-di-da-di-da. I rang her, and within 10 minutes, it was all sorted.
It seems so simple.
Does now. It wasn't at the time.
Hindsight's
a lovely science.
So, overall then, what would you say that you've learned from that experience? If you can sum it up into a few words, what is the kind of the key points to take from it? Do you sometimes just have to be sort of brave and just actually speak to the person when you've got the...
I think what you said about the pound signs or the dollar signs can drag you into doing things that you probably wouldn't really do, just because you want the money coming in. I think when you, particularly in a service business like mine, you have to know what you're really good at and what you want to do. It probably applies to any business, but there will be lots of things in any business that you don't want to do, but that you know that you have to do in the beginning till you can afford to pay somebody to do them. But there will be lots of things that you really don't like doing, and usually when you don't like doing them, you're not very good at doing them either, because it's a pain.
Yeah.
So therefore you tend not to do them very well. So part of what I would say to anybody setting up a business is to do what I did a few years down the line, which is to do a list of what you really like doing, do a list of what you don't like doing, but you'll do at a push, and do a list of what you hate doing and you never want to do again, because there will be lots of those if you think about them. I mean, in any business, when you start it up, people normally go, oh, I don't want to do bookkeeping, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. They know that from day one, but they know that it's part of running a business, so they have to do it. But particularly for me, where I was trying to be all things to all people, it's wrong. You should stick to what you're good at and what you know how to do. Is it a case of
listening to your gut? If your gut's saying...
I think it's part listening to your gut, but it's also part being realistic and knowing what you're really, really good at. And we all know that. It's just that sometimes we have to persuade ourselves, because particularly in the UK, we're never very good at saying, yes, I am good at doing that. In America, they're good at doing everything because they believe they're good at doing everything. In this country, we don't do that. We say, oh, yeah, I'm okay at doing that. But I know now, more than ever, what I'm really good at. So now I stick to that, and I find other people to do the things that I don't want to do. And I still keep to that list to this day, all these years later. I do not ever do anything on that no list.
Hopefully I don't come asking advice from your no list. You'll just tell me to go.
No. I can give you advice on it. I just don't ever do it.
Well, to sum things up before we leave you to your day, Mr. or Mrs. Viewer, if you could share just one piece of advice to a young / new entrepreneur, someone who's just starting out or thinking about starting out, one piece of advice, what would it be? This is the key one.
It's kind of a combination, but it is have faith in yourself that you can do it. But I would always advise anybody who's starting out to get a good team around them of more experienced people who have maybe been there, seen it, done it. A bit like we're doing, the mentor and the mentee. Make sure you've got lots of people that you trust and that you know have got the right sort of credentials, so that even if you don't need their help when you start, when you're growing and you're having problems, you've got a good team of people that you can go to and ask for their help. Don't try and do it all yourself.
It's fine advice, and I quite often use sporting examples because I was brought up on sport. Even the very best players in the world, if we look at tennis, the best tennis player in the world is still going to have a coach. We all need it, no matter how experienced you get, no matter how good you get, whether you're starting out or you're far down the road, there's always going to be times when you just need someone to speak to.
I've been very lucky.
I found the mentorship program very useful. It's something I want to keep on doing. I've just started to be a mentor for my old university, and it's something I think is a fantastic thing. So huge thanks to Christine, and thank you to Mr. or Mrs. Viewer for watching Turn Dog Talks To. And hopefully you've picked up a few tips on the mistakes that Christine's made, but more importantly, how she overcame them. So
thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and good night.